If you're making a nice dress, you're probably going to want to finish it with an invisible zipper. These can be daunting, but I'll show you how to do it. It's really easy. First off, start by opening up that zipper. The next step is something I do. This is totally optional. I like to trim the top of my zipper so that when you zip it up, the top of the zipper is at the top of the garment. This is totally optional, and I'm sure a lot of people don't do this. It's just something I've found that I prefer. The next step is to press the teeth of the zipper open. Unlike other zippers that have their teeth lying flat, invisible zippers have their teeth kind of curl back when they're zipped up. This is so that the zipper is hidden inside the seam. But the first step is to kind of roll those open. You'll be able to feel it with your fingers and just press them flat with an iron. Sometimes it takes pressing them a couple times, but you'll be able to feel once they're laying flat. And it'll look about like this. So we're going to want to make sure that the top of the zipper is lined up with the top of the garment. You want to make sure that you're pinning the zipper on the right side of your fabric. And you also want to make sure that the edge of the zipper that doesn't have the teeth is aligned with the edge of your garment. This way when you stitch it, it'll flip over. To successfully create this invisible zipper illusion, you really want the back seams to line up perfectly, especially like the waist seam or any other points that are going to line up. The best way to do this is kind of to mark on the zipper a straight line across, and then as you pin one side, you're going to make sure that that line hits in the exact same spot on the other side. You're probably going to want to do this for the top, maybe the waist seam, and then the end, wherever the end of the zipper is going to hit. Some basic tips on pinning is just make sure that you do this slowly and that it lays flat the whole time. You don't want it to be bubbling or you need to stretch or anything, because the zipper itself is not going to stretch. So if your fabric is kind of gathering or pulling as you're pinning, this is going to be an issue when you start sewing. Here you can see me marking the end. This is where the zipper is going to end. I mark it on both sides of the zipper and then pin to that end. I make sure and pull the zipper past that point because I want to not have to sew like past the bulky part of the zipper. Now you're just going to want to do the exact same thing on the other side, lining up all the same stuff. Make sure you're still on the right side of your fabric. Make sure that the part of your zipper that does not have teeth is lining up with your seam edge. And again, right sides together, teeth are open. Make sure you line up the top of the zipper with the top of your garment. Make sure those waist seams are lined up with those lines that you made earlier. Make sure at the end, if there's a notch, it lines up with that line that you made on the other side. This will help it zip together really nicely. This is a zipper foot. I know that there are other feet for pressing invisible zippers, but this is what I always use. Make sure that your needle gets really, really close to those teeth, as close as you possibly can. I also like to go over the seam a little bit further away from the teeth, just one extra time. The other side, you want to make sure you go the same direction that you went on the other one. This means you don't want to sew down one side and up the other side. It's going to cause the zipper alignment to just have little issues. So if you go down one side, you're going to want to go down the other side. You're going to have to switch the side the invisible zipper foot is on so that your needle is still going right next to those teeth. And again, I like to sew just one more seam. I feel like it helps that zipper stay in place and kind of reduces a little bit of the tension that is on the one seam of the zipper. Here you can see how well aligned those little notches are, those little lines that we made earlier. And then I'm just gonna cut off the bottom of my zipper here because we don't need it. Here you can see that those are the waist lines that I made. Those still line up super nicely. And now it's going to be time to finish those seams. I have my seams folded over here because I wanted to use up a little bit extra fabric, but generally these are going to be raw. So I just go over the edges with a zigzag stitch or an overlock stitch, anything that just keeps those edges from fraying, because if you have fraying edges, those little threads are going to get in the teeth of the zipper, and that's how you get stuck in a dress and you have to have somebody cut you out, or you wind up crying all by yourself in your bedroom. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but honestly, like, it just looks nicer, and it creates like a better finished product. And again, it kind of helps reduce some of the pressure on that zipper. This is how it looks, all zipped up. I think that zipper is very invisible. It just looks like a normal seam. In fact, that waist seam actually is more noticeable than the invisible zipper seam. Really, you do want your invisible zipper to be the same color as your main fabric. I couldn't find a black one, so I thought I could use a skin colored one and that would look better. It doesn't, but it was nice for the purposes of this. You can see how clearly it stands out. Press it, make sure those teeth are laying flat again. Now you're going to want to make something that stops your zipper from just sliding off the end. I am hand stitching it here. There's a bunch of ways to do this. I've actually seen people just put a glop of super glue there. I don't think hand stitching it takes that long. It's pretty easy. Depending on what your garment looks like, you can also just go over it a couple times with the sewing machine. Most sewing machine needles don't really have an issue. But yeah, here is the finished invisible zipper. You can see that it creates a really nice finish, and genuinely, it's really not that hard. I know a lot of people are kind of daunted by invisible zippers, but hopefully this was helpful. Please like and subscribe if this was helpful for you. I really appreciate it, and happy sewing!